Live on Sky Power FM Radio Studios, West Rex. Good afternoon, good evening to where you are on planet Earth. My name is Mustafa Jame at the seat here, saying good day to you all wherever you are. If you're listening onto the radio or our Facebook Live viewers right now, good day to you all. As you all seen tonight, our topic title is Current State of Affairs in the Gambia. With Suleiman Ben Suare and Mr. Suleiman Jeng, the double Suleiman. So, Suleiman, if I may start with you, as if this has been your first time, welcome to Sky Power FM Radio, Suleiman.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, my colleague and compatriot, Mr. Suare.
Right, Mr. Suare is not a new face here. He's part of us. Ben, if you want to say hello.
Yeah. Hello. I apologize for my voice. I'm not feeling that well.
Yeah.
But good afternoon to you all, to listeners, viewers, and good afternoon to Brother Saul, and good afternoon to you. What a great host.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suare. Like our topic title tonight is Current State of Affairs in the Gambia, but this we will break it into a bit of pieces, to elaborate on each of them. First of all, I want us to shed light on this particular one here, which is the economic, the OIC, which is the OIC that has been meant to happen, but for some reason it's been cancelled or so. So the OIC in the first place, you think there's any economic or social or political impact of this in the postponement, Mr. Suarez Suleiman?
Good afternoon. Very important topic. And to start with the OIC.
Yeah.
I think the problem with the OIC actually is the timing.
Right.
It's a very important event to host. And it's strategic to host an event like that in order to use the opportunity to open up your economy, to build your infrastructure, and for economic development. But it has to be consumed the right way, the right time, and run by the right people. And I think these are the three aspects they had wrong. And when a government in transition, I think should avoid taking on projects that are very difficult to deliver. A government in transition should focus on transitional delivery programs. And during that space, what they can do is to plan for the future of how to grow the economy or how to develop the country. I think most of us have sounded alarming bells when we took over government, and we decided to go with the OIC project. I think we should have thought about it and postpone it and give it to another country to host, with the arrangement that we will be guaranteed to host it in the following year. Then during this course of time, the Gambia would have been prepared and strategically and do the program successfully, and that would really benefit the country. I'll give you an example. I'll give you the example. Why I said it was, of course, I think the wrong people have been appointed due to probably they've been rushed, due to the political interference, nepotism. Wrong people have been appointed. I've not seen any of the people appointed who have a track record on delivering a program of this magnitude, respect to anything that they have done in the past. But this is completely a different ballgame. And Gambia, we have citizens all over the world. We have citizens who are proven, who have the not only the qualifications, but who have the experience, who have the proven track records. I think if we had planned properly, these people would have come on board. And if the right people were on board, they would have, assessed the project, and they would have come earlier, before even resource mobilization, to advise government that it's best not to host this event now, but to postpone it. Then the timing, the people is wrong, timing is wrong. I think even the location of the main conference center, I think is the wrong location, because it's not strategically linked to anything as far as I know. Or if I don't know, because of it's not been put out there, because I've been following. What a project of this magnitude have to be part of something that's going to be integrated into a national development plan. It have to be. Okay, why did I say the location was wrong? Already, that area started to be oversaturated. We cannot build on every land we have. We have to leave space for other, natural paths. We have to leave space for other things. And the infrastructure around that area have already encountered a lot of hurdles and problems. It's more difficult to improve on that than to start somewhere fresh. Because of the roads, to open up those roads would take a lot of cost and time. I mean, the present infrastructure in that area, the water, the water supply in that area is problematic. It's a major, even if they have built the infrastructure, the main conference center, next minute you will have problem with now supplying the required pressure of water. Already existing hotels and properties around there are suffering the same problems. But in the case as what happened in the United Kingdom, when they wanted to host the Olympics, they make sure the Olympics has a legacy. They make sure the Olympics is part of a plan of what, to regenerate the East End of London, and by what, addressing certain issues. When they wanted to host the Olympics, they make sure the Olympics has a legacy. They make sure the Olympics is part of a plan of what, to regenerate the East End of London, and by addressing certain issues. When they wanted to host. Yeah, I think something went on there. My voice was being repeated.
Yeah,
my voice was being repeated.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When they wanted when they wanted the Olympics, they brought the Olympics in order to gain something out of it. Already there was existing infrastructure, but they want to add onto that infrastructure to develop the East End of London. There was problem of housing for entirety of London. But again, the land available, they're already brownfield land that are derelict land. I mean, some industries where they're no more functional, and they want to develop this area. They wanted to promote sports. They want to develop sports, and in order to build on those capitals, now they need the Olympics. Now, this was the idea already. to open up the transportation link for London. All these things we were considered in order to go for the Olympics. That's why the Olympics had a lasting legacy compared to Greece and other cities that has hosted. They haven't had the legacy that the United Kingdom have. Planning is very important.
Yeah, but Suleiman, if I may come in here, because if you say planning, I think OIC, the organizers and whoever the organizers should have standard. Do they not have a standard for this? Because it's like the blame is on Gambians because they say they can host it. If before you host it, I think there should be a standard that the OIC should say, these are our standards.
Yeah, and what actually do happen, my understanding is you bid for the bidding is more of a political maneuvering.
Right.
It's the bidding is of political maneuvering. And once you are awarded to host, then what you do, you make your case. That's where you make your case. And it's up to, the burden of proof is on you. You promise to deliver. But what the OIC does is they have a contingency plan. And this is what happened with the Gambia. The minute they realize, you see, the organization committee in the Gambia are not telling the Gambian people. They still didn't tell us the truth. If you follow the OIC website, they have for a couple of months, they have, quite a while, they have already identified Saudi Arabia as the host country. They have already identified Saudi Arabia as a
Gambia
country.
government, did the Gambia government come out to tell the people that? Did they?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Still now, up to we're talking about now, most of the information we have is coming from different sources. But even the spokesperson of the OIC, Esa Bukarisi, have even came out still trying to deny the fact that Gambia is not hosting it. This is the incompetency that I'm talking about. The people that are given the task don't have the competency. They have never run a project of this magnitude. Why would you take the risk of giving people who haven't have a track record of delivering a project to deliver a project? This
but
sort
Suleiman,
of projects.
I would say, you know, you need to give people a chance to learn, innit?
No, you don't learn. You don't learn on. Yeah, I mean, you learn by. I mean, what you call it? By going as an intern. You don't learn by taking charge. They could have learned from other people. I mean, this is a national project. It's not something that should be risked. There's millions and billions of dollars in these things. We don't learn on the job on this. If you want to learn on the job, you go and be unsubordinate, but you don't take charge. The Gambians, we have Gambians engineers, we have Gambians, I mean, who are successful in doing these things. They should have given the project, and or other people could have been employed, I mean, to what they are qualified for, and that's where the learning process would be, but not to take charge of the project.
That was the answer I was after. That was the answer I was looking for. Thank you for that answer. Suleiman, if I may come to you, Mr. Suleiman Jeng, for the first time. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, if I may
and having me today.
First of all, the point I have for you is, do you think the postponement of this OIC would make any economic impact, you think?
Well, frankly speaking, I think the OIC has varied components that it would have benefited the Gambia. On the political plane, it would have; on the economic plane, it would have; on the social plane, as well as on the geographical, which includes the infrastructure development. Economically, Gambia would have gained, by getting a lot of foreign exchange, because when these people come in, they are coming with a lot of money to spend on our social entertainment. They will be buying artifacts, they will be spending on food, etc. So all those expenditure would generate extra fund and extra money for the locals as well as the central government. And looking at the infrastructure, if the buildings and roads have been completed, that is going to give the Gambia, particularly the greater Banjul area, a boost. And then it would also encourage a lot of businesses wherein people can make profit. It could also generate employment. And then if you look at it on the political level, it would also place the Gambia on the international level scene, wherein they would have confidence that the Gambia can run projects as huge as the OIC and can host them successfully. So in the future, if the Gambia wants to bid for anything international, they can always look back, like we say in our CVs, I have hosted the OIC, it went out successfully. So for me, I would disagree with my namesake on the fact that, those who are appointed to run are not competent. When you say competence, is like having the knowledge and the expertise to oversee. If you look at the OIC, its bidding started with the Jammeh regime. It was the Jammeh regime that secured it. And then the Barrow government has to continue to carry it out to success. What I can agree with him is like, I would put it in other words, is an abdication of duty. Where people would have been coming in to inspect, like consultants and even the executive itself. You just don't pay one visit and then they show you one aspect and then you are assured that it would finish and then that will be it. You can make constant, because knowing the magnitude and the benefit that the OIC can bring into the country, they should have been making constant checks and pushing to see that, the constructions has met its deadline. If there was funding problem, they could have also resorted into requesting funds or tapping other resources wherein it would be completed. But unfortunately, it's like now the government is not telling us exactly what is going on. So all we can do is to assume, from our own perception, and then basing some of this from past experiences to make deductions as to why it did not succeed.
Right. If I may come in there, Suleiman, because this is got to do with our state is at stake.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the first time such a thing is going to happen in the Gambia. I think we should be able to, not even able, we should plan it properly in such a way that, this sort of embarrassment shouldn't have happened. So,
that's what I've said is, for me personally, my own point of view is an abdication of duty. When I say an abdication of duty, people have not taken up their roles responsibly, to ensure this thing, has completed or is completed. Let's say, for example, a project of this nature would have, a consultant who would constantly be checking on the constructors to see whether they are meeting deadlines. For example, building from the foundation, to the finishing, the roofing, the wiring, the plumbing, etc. All these things should have been timed, and then someone should have been there constantly checking this thing is in progress. Because the last time when I saw President Barrow visited it, he was assured that it would be completed before the date of the OISC. And then that was the last time I've seen him there. So now what they are doing, they are trying to save face. And in issues like this, you don't have to save face. You just have to be honest and tell the people the truth so that they can understand. And then we all learn from it. And then, like Mr. Suarez said, you learn from your experiences to develop yourself, for better tomorrows. But if you try to save face and then try to delay and hide,
Tom,
you are only...
all what you point, Tom, all you have pointed out here, who are the people responsible? If they were competent, would they not have, know about the oversight? Would they not have known about the delivery?
Competence and negligence. Competence and negligence are two different things. You can be competent and negligent. Because what we see mostly in the Gambia is like people take things for granted.
People in charge, do you know their track record? Have they ever deliver a project of this magnitude? Have they ever?
Not exactly, but what you can look at people like Nyangjai and Esa Bokasi, when it comes to smartness and intelligence and, coming up with policies and executing, projects, you cannot say those people are inadequate.
No, but the talking is one thing, but the delivery is another thing.
No, I'm not talking about the talking. I'm talking about the competence.
No, that's what I'm saying. The competence of Nyangjai critiquing or on citing issues is one thing, but the competence of Nyangjai delivering that kind of project. What's the competence of Esa Bukaresi apart from being an ambassador for Yahya Jammeh? What competency that is? That was of political appointment, and what have he delivered during the course of being an ambassador? Completely nothing. What he had done is being an activist. Being an activist and being a spokesperson for a project of that magnitude is they are all our colleagues, they are all our friends. But we have to face the fact here. This was a project of a different magnitude. This is not a building a playground. This was of something
I think we lose insight here. Because from my understanding of your competence is someone who has, let's say, built a house before, and someone who has never built a house but has learned how to build a house. You are telling me the person who has learned how to build a house but never had the opportunity to build a house is not competent, but is the person who has built a house that is competent. That is my understanding of you.
What I'm saying is here. The person that have learned to build a house should work as a subordinate to the person who have built a house in order for them to build the house. Then the person who have learned to build a house in university, wherever, would have the experience to build a house in the future. This is how it works. You don't take people because of they got a degree on something and give them something. Those people that have degree, they need a track record. They need to be part of something. This is project management. How, I mean, of a big, I mean, of a multi, I mean, the resource management. I mean, the components of engineering. It's so huge. You need the kind of people that have these qualifications, but not only the qualifications, but have the track record to deliver. But let me
I'll
get to
give you
some.
I'll give
Yeah,
yeah
no, go
I'll
ahead.
give
Go
you
ahead.
an example. I'll give you an example. I was watching Senegalese news yesterday, and
Yeah.
then there was this uh, building there. It's like a college that they were building, but it took
Mhm.
ages for the
Yeah.
simple fact that because the contractors are making
Mhm.
money, the more they delay it, the more they make money. But this
Yeah.
governor got fed up, and some of the sponsors, they said, no, enough is enough. Now we want this thing completed within this time framework, and then
Yeah.
they are pressing that it is completed, because if it is delayed, these people are making more money, and it's delaying other projects. So
Yeah.
those building it, you cannot say they are not incompetent. They are not competent. Here, like I said, it's not about competence. It is about abdication of duty and
Yeah, that's
negligence.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Because
saying. That duty, people responsible of the duty. I'm not talking about the Chinese building the center. This is not about building the center. This is about delivering the project, the whole project for that matter. People
supervising it,
who are in
exactly.
charge,
The supervision
people.
is
That's what I said. They
the
are not
supervision is
competent.
what let us down here.
From Mr. Is it Mr. Sane to the whole team? They have failed Gambian people in all sense. And
Okay.
again we are
If
talking
I may
about.
come in, if I may come in there,
Yeah.
what is the cause to this failure?
Okay, now let me come up here. We are even you are using the word postpone. Because of why are you using the word postpone? That's what you are comfortable of. That's what you think is happening.
Yeah.
But have you heard from them exactly what have happened? This is what you Gambians should ask. They should be accountable. Tell Gambians what actually transpired. I mean,
Exactly.
how
That's
did
that's that's
I
that's
mean
why I
that
said until they
is
come out and tell us the
that's what I'm
truth.
saying. That's what I'm saying. This is not. They should not wait for us to ask. This should have been given to us months ago, not until we knew from other sources. This has been forced out of them. If because of Gambians have agitating,
Yeah,
Gambians
but
have been doing.
what Suleiman, what have they
Yeah.
got to hide? Why are they dragging it? Why?
I
Because of
think
they felt.
they are hiding it because they've not done their jobs properly.
Thank you.
And then if they come out, people would tell them, look, you failed us, you disappointed us because you have not done the job properly. I agree with Mr. Suare that, the employment of some of the people, is like, has very questionable
But
approaches.
yeah. Mhm.
But, I would not say they are not competent. Nepotism has been cried when some of them have been appointed. Favoritism have been cried when some of them have been appointed. But nonetheless, these are people that we expected would deliver. And if it were me, for example, I would go all out to make sure it is successful, because people have been saying, okay, I have been appointed because my mother was this, or I have been appointed because my uncle was this, or I have been appointed because I was this. So I would prove those people wrong. But now they have confirmed to those people that actually this is what they feared, and they knew they would not do anything. They would not deliver. So probably, to me, that is why they are hiding, the truth from us.
Yeah.
And here, I would not blame those people. I blame the executive,
Yeah.
particularly the president, because as a president, as a transitional president, you are out to, set things into a good working order, so that the next government that comes into place would find everything almost ready for them to start work with and then to develop. We are not expecting much develop from them, but we expect the transitional government should work on strengthening, public institutions, would work on strengthening and reviving the economy. Once these are done, any other government that comes into power after them would find it very easy to solidify and also develop these things further, wherein this
Yeah.
nepotism and corruption would all be stamped out. because I think there is more corruption in it than anything else.
Yes, so
Thank you.
who is, when it comes to, you said government in place or government in, is it the government in place or transitional government?
No, it's a transitional. The Barrow leadership is a transitional government.
Should be.
Is or should be, these are two different ways of
it is a transitional government.
Right. Okay.
Should be
because
a transitional government,
that is,
but we have not seen them in transition.
That is what they are voted for. Even if he goes for 5 years, he's still a transitional government. You understand? Because the government, his government is elected, to stabilize, the country, the security, the economy, strengthen institutions, and stamp out corruption.
Right.
Because these were very rampant. And then after that period, the leadership would stand down and allow free and fair elections, wherein a new government would come in, which is expected to work on development force or development programs. But this government, from my understanding, was elected just to, start working on stabilizing the economy, the electoral system, the security reforms, etc.
You don't think
of huge projects?
You don't think that's trying to settle down? You don't think?
No, they have settled. They have settled down, because if they have not settled after 3 years, then I don't know. God knows when will they settle down.
Yeah,
right,
can I get?
I
get in here?
Yeah,
can I get in here? Okay, I say this. I am one of the people on record said it the minute this thing was announced that it would not be delivered. I was on record. People who followed my program would hear it. I'm on record. I've made a series of programs to explain why I said what I said. Not being an expert, but from learning from other countries that have done it. Secondly, when they appointed the people, I said another problem is here. The people appointed are not fit for purpose. If they are fit for purpose, they would have realized that they cannot deliver this within the short period. Because of the magnitude and the job to be done is far greater than the time they have. And in order to mobilize the resources and implement these things would not be done right. Okay, here, why this was not right is, as we said, we are meant to be on a transitional period. Should be a transitional period. The project is not a transitional program. And our transitional period, we should have prioritized transitional programs. But you can see that apart from the Minister of Justice, that it seems that it's only the Minister of Justice that came from day one to map out and signpost it where they're going to go with the transitional delivery. There's no other area of governance that have mapped out their approach to the transitional programs delivery. This is where we have problems in. We are politicking about other things, but we are not truly in a transitional government. If we had been in a transitional government,
I think on that note, we should give credit to the government now for setting up that strategic and implementation program, which is
we'll get to that one. We got to that one again. We'll get to that one. Before we get to that one, let me move on to this. Why did I say this? If we had used the formulas we talked about, the things we talked about when we came into government, that will form a think tank, will form a knowledge bank. The knowledge bank would have given us the opportunity to get Gambians, who are qualified to do things, and put a metric.
I think the think tank is a white elephant that was established, but it is nothing but a white elephant.
It wasn't established. That's what I'm saying. They move away from it. If they wanted it, it would have been worked. They moved away from it because they don't want to use anything credible. They don't want to be transparent. They don't want to be accountable. This is why they went to create what they did. Because remember, it was the first, the then vice president, Fatma Tambajang, who moved away from the think tank. and everything else. And he was the one actually who created this IOC, and we can see his family footprint on that IOC project. This is where the failings become. I said, if we had followed things as we should have, we could have delivered it not this year, not next year, but the other time, and would be strategic.
Why
Do you know why it would be strategic?
Okay, Suleiman, if I may come in here, why the rush? Why rushing?
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Because of it was for them, it was seen as they want to be in it. They want to benefit from it. They want to benefit from it politically. Like if they deliver this, Barrow would have something to say. We deliver something, and because of already, that's what I'm saying. They move away.
Mr. Suare, what you fail to acknowledge is like it was not the Barrow government that bid for this OIEC.
But in every
so they found this OIEC already, in place. So they were just executing the plans and proposals. So if it was the Barrow government that just went and bid for it, then you would have said so.
In every democracy, Tom, a United Kingdom, when the new level come to government, this thing, before they had to, you review, when you come in, you review anything you inherit. You don't have to take it and run with it. When they come in, we should have reviewed every project to see whether it's deliverable or not. Why would we just take in something and end up it being a failure? If we had reviewed it, that's what I said. If we had appointed the right people, they would have assessed what they have to take in first, and they will report on the delivery, whether it's deliverable or not, or if it's deliverable, at what cost. Then the government can take position on that. But they have not done that. Because since they came in, they have not taken the time to work with people with competence, people with integrity as well. People who have integrity that will tell you, definitely this would not work. We said what we said. We spoke to different Gambians of that caliber who have integrity, have the competence, and all looked at it and said, we should not touch this project now. What we can do is pass it on. And with the agreement that we'll we'll host it the next time. Then this project should have been used as a base to build our new city. Gambia needs a new city. The capital city, Banjul, was fit for the 60s as a capital city. Capital city of Banjul now needs to be rehabilitated, needs to be reestablished as a cultural city. Now we need a new administrative city. Then the Faraba, I gave an example during one of my programs. They did around Faraba Bantang. Faraba, where the university campus is. I think those areas connecting towards the Combo South and the Fonies, I think that was strategic to think of building a new city. Then if the think tank have decided this, then the IOC project should have been put in there. Then it would have been the foundation of the new city. Then once the IOC is finished, all the projects of the IOC would have a legacy. We will start to use those IOC, transfer it to other things. Now, the problem we have is when you have this conference center where we have it now, what you're going to do with the conference center after the IOC? You cannot, I have had excuses here, we're going to hold international conferences. All the countries that have tried it have failed. Botswana have tried it, failed. Kenya have tried it, failed. That model doesn't work anymore. But if that thing was paid strategically, but from the concept of building it, would have been built in a way that it would be transferred to something else. I give you the example. When the United Kingdom, when London hosted the Olympics, the stadium was built for a purpose of to make it transferable, not only for football, but to promote athletics. When they talked about rebuilding the Wembley Stadium 2 was considered for the future. When you plan, this is what planning does, but there was nothing like planning in this. They went and took a Yaya Jammeh project and they run with a Yaya Jammeh project. This is what you have. As a responsible government, you cannot just inherit things and run with it. You have to review something and strategically look, how can I do things better? Because when you inherit a government, you inherit both the good and the bad. But when you inherit the bad, it's you take the opportunity to make it good. This is the responsibilities. That's why people have the confidence to put you in government. But this government have not done that.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. That is why I said, the leadership should have concentrated on the transitional projects, wherein they can work on strengthening, the public institutions, They can work on stamping out corruption. They can work on stabilizing the economy, and also leveling the political ground, wherein political parties would have equal opportunity. Let's say at the beginning, when they just started, for example, GRTS, every other political party has equal access. But now we can see, GRTS is slowly eroding is leaning only towards the executive. And then other political parties have been denied equal access. And for example, the Gis when, Dabo was the vice president, when he had that encounter with them, I think that was why it was kicked out of office. It was kicked out of production. So, these are things that did not help, the Barrow government a lot, because it's like, instead of focusing on what they should do to strengthen, and develop our country, they are concentrating more on, political expediency, wherein, they can entrench themselves, etc., etc. And this
I
again,
100% agree. 100% agree on that, Mr. Tom.
this again, explains the failure of the OIEC. I don't believe it is about competence. I just believe it's all about corruption, like you said. It's about nepotism. It's about negligence, and putting the self first instead of country.
Right.
Because,
if I'm in there, Suleiman, that is selfishness. Why would we give people of that caliber, that responsibility, people who are selfish? Because the setup, if you look at the setup, it looks like you said, nepotism or favoritism going on out there. So how can we leave this an organization or an occasion of such caliber in the hands of those kind of people? What sort of country are we living in?
I think it is all because of political gains. There was some time I said, if I were a president, personally, my ministers, I would, advertise the positions. I'm not just going to appoint every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I would advertise the positions, even though they are political appointments, but I'd advertise them wherein people can apply, and then I will pick and choose from the very competent people and give them the responsibility. But what we see mostly, in Europe and America, wherein you can appoint, political aides and supporters, but these people have expertise in their various fields. But in Africa, it is different. Let's look at Barrow, for example, and his group of advisors, from the presidential advisors to the youth advisors. These are people who you cannot say has any expertise in his or her own appointed field. So when you appoint such people, you don't expect them to tell you anything that would work towards drawing, policies that would strengthen or bring about positive and lasting development. They would only tell you things that you would like to hear as a leader to strengthen your position as a leader. So anything that they would tell you that you would start to look around and say, no, this is not in my favor. It's like you would pick someone else tomorrow and then you'd ask them to go home. So they're interested in their pockets than telling you exactly what would bring about national development. So as a leader, you want to be successful. You should be very honest and bold. You don't have to look at people's faces or be pleasing people. You should look at, your legacy, what successes you would register. And when you leave office tomorrow, what people can remember you with. Because if you appoint your family and friends, and then they don't tell you anything that would, make you succeed, when you leave office, you go down with them. Nobody remembers you. If you look at, people like Sankara, you look at people like Lumumba, people like, Nkrumah, Sekou Toure and others, even though they ended, in poverty and stuff like that, but they were very firm and, very straightforward. They don't look at, this is my brother, or this is my friend's brother, or this is X or Y. I'll only appoint you according to your competence and your expertise. And then I would ensure you deliver. If you don't deliver, I send you home.
Right. If I may come in there, on that note, we want to exhaust that bit of it.
Let me just add to, I'm in agreement with my Tom here. I just want to buttress on that position. And I wish President Barrow have listened to that sound advice that my brother just gave. But again, this is where we're saying that when when I keep on emphasizing on the field leadership, this is what it is. When we broke the MOU, we didn't realize how important the MOU is. You see, this is where when we move away from the the agendas of a transitional government, if what we went through, we have to go through a transition. I mean, once this transitional government fails, I'll tell you, any government that comes have to go through a transition again, because these institutions need to be rebuilt and the systems need to be changed in order to bring about, I mean, what we need to do. The reset button, I think, is still out there. But I don't think we have that much time anymore. We keep on saying that we can reset the button, but the burden of rests with President Barrow right now. He have executive powers, as my colleague have just said. He have to get the right people around him. You cannot just create jobs for people. Create all these appointments because of they tell you what you want to hear, and because of other people tell you things that you don't want to hear. You fall out with them. But these are the people who have expertise, who have the knowledge. The word political appointment doesn't mean that the person doesn't have to have knowledge. The person have to have knowledge. The word political appointment means that the president have the right to appoint that person, but the person should be fit for purpose. You can go ahead, Bill. Thank you.
In 30 seconds, do you think this would have impact in our society? Suleiman Jeng.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it would definitely impact the society. Like I said initially, economically, revenues that were meant to come in during this period would be diverted to Saudi. Employment that would have been created if it were successful, those employments would never be in place. The investment that would have come in with this would cease and would be diverted to Saudi. So this is a great loss. And it has also brought, a further political divide, because it's like those who want to see Gambia successful, are coming out and are giving their own opinions, and those who only want to see the leadership in power are kind of seeing those people as enemies of state or progress.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Suleiman. On that note, we will exhaust that bit of
no, let me get into that. I agree on everything he said, but that's another thing that's a currency that we cannot just lose is hope. Okay. It's the hope that Gambians have just gone dissolute, because of it was once we delivered something like this, we'd give hope to the people. But now we say that can't we not deliver anything? This is the problem. But a point I fail to address is the funding. Another, because once they come out, I hope they would tell us funding is a part of it again. And one of the areas why did we fail on funding is our foreign policy. Foreign policy, Tangara. The Foreign Minister Tangara, the French, he went along with the French, went and recognized Armenia and opened a diplomatic mission in Armenia. In geopolitics, foreign policy is your vehicle for resource mobilization. Azerbaijan are already in this agreement with Armenia. Azerbaijan would have been one of the countries that would have sponsored this IOC. Azerbaijan have taken their foot off the pedal. Turkey are in conflict with Armenia. Turkey are doing a lot because they don't want to lose what they've got. But I think Turkey would not be pleased that we went and had this diplomatic relationship with Armenia. There's nothing Gambia gains with our relations with Armenia. We don't have any traditional links or any diplomatic links with Armenia. It was all. Huh?
This selfishness, is a problem. Everyone is out there for your pocket, all the time. This is something we need to work on. This behavior or attitude change, that's what we need, On that note, Suleiman,
thank you
for that robustic, thingy there. It was brilliant. And then we'll switch to our next topic, which is same on the current affairs, the involvement of the military in agriculture. Ooh. This is something that is of late happening now in the Gambia. The military taking part in the agri sector of the Gambia. I don't know what's the use of the agricultural system. If I may come to you, Mr. Suleiman Jeng, first of all, as an officer before.
Yeah, I think yes, you have to look at this in two perspectives. Okay, if you want a professional army, you would say, first of all, no, I wouldn't want the army to get involved in agricultural projects. I would rather train them into projects such as engineering, building, carpentry, road constructions, which are lasting. You can even use them outside, like, to take projects in other countries wherein they can generate money and fund.
Yeah.
But looking at our security forces, especially when Jammeh was there, we've seen them go to his farms, we've seen them, rear his cattle, etc., etc. So a lot of us cried foul that he was using the army for his own personal gain. Okay. On the other aspect, looking at the army now, and then this is an army that is not foreseen to go to war anytime soon. So they are just there, sitting doing nothing much, and then they are on the taxpayers' payroll. So why not utilize them into something that the government and the people and the community can benefit from? But my worry here is, like the OIEC, it's the running and the implementation of the project. If the project is not properly managed and supervised, it would end up as a white elephant, and we would end up, having a very corrupt and a manipulative army. On the other side also, if it is successful, like we can see in Egypt and other places, the army would become so powerful and wealthy that it could have a very strong political impact on the democratic dispensation of the country.
Quite right.
The army, would kind of control the economic as well as the political and administrative system by virtue of the project and the sort of their, as is in the case in Egypt. That's my take for
Right.
now.
Yeah, thank you for that. Suleiman, if you may comment, do you think the army, no, if Suleiman, if I may come back to you as an ex-police officer or as an ex-officer, would you say
Okay.
the army are useful at the minute?
Yeah, like I did say that. I said they're doing nothing at the moment. So to me, when you as in, it's like in security, the presence of the uniform officer alone is a deterrent. You understand? Whether
Okay.
they've known it consciously or unconsciously, just the mere presence of a police officer in uniform or the mere presence of a soldier in uniform is a deterrent. It would stop, criminals who have intention to commit, a felon at that particular time. You understand? It doesn't minimize crime, but it deters it for, their mere presence at the time. Okay,
Right.
if you look at the Gambia now, we are not, security-wise, the Gambia is not stable. The Gambia is a very fragile country, security-wise, and even politically. That would kind of lead me to some of these protests that are periodically happening. Okay, Mr. Suare would agree. Would agree with me as
We'll go to that.
yeah.
I agree on.
No, I'm just alluding to it quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Go on,
as an intelligent officer, separate incidents and separate activities. Sometimes work in tandem to create a major, circumstance that has not been prepared for. So unless you are smart and you can foresee this thing and analyze it properly, you can collect these bits and pieces of information. You cannot piece it, to kind of stabilize the security of a state or a community. So that is my point. Yeah.
I quite agree.
Coming on to the thing is, Suleiman, Ben, so others might say, well, for food security or food sufficiency, because without food, anything can go. Some might say that.
Yeah, I understand the frustration of with Gambians seeing the army, the amount this big size army not doing anything, and they want to see them productive. I mean, this is I see some people have this argument. Yeah, why not them? I mean, help to produce this food and so on. One, I understand other people say, yeah, because they're doing reforms. Yeah, it will be good to be part of the reforms. Two, I understand those things, but I want them. I want to take them back. Let them remember, as I said earlier, let them remember we took an armed forces, which was the major instrument, which was the major mechanism used to suppress. You see, if you look at what had happened, the police played less part in what had happened. The army was the major instrument of, what kept the dictator intact and suppressed the people. The major, organ that suppressed the Gambian people. Now, we are talking about reforming this army. We have to reform that army to fit for purpose. That army was built to entrench a dictatorship. Now we are in a democracy. That army should be reformed to be fit for democracy. Why do we say an army fit for democracy? In a democracy, we have institutions. A democracy, we have our check and balances. And in a democracy, what we have something we recognize as our sectors. We have the public sector, we have the private sector, and we have the civil society. Now, if any of these sectors encroach too much into another, it destabilizes the system, how it runs. The army as an institution should not get into the private sector. In a sense, as my colleague was saying here, there are certain aspects that the army takes on areas like civil engineering or engineering for that matter, because it goes with the kind of the operations they do in disaster relief and others. But we can even take it further. The army in institutions like the United Kingdom is the biggest apprenticeship institution. It can be a pathway for Gambian citizens to learn trade and discipline to go into the private sector. We can create all that. But this has to be done in a reform. Right now, that army is not fit for purpose. The reason we still have economic in that country, because it is fragile. Why burden the army then with another component of something else? Before you even consider these things, let's do the first thing first. Let's prioritize to get the army for purpose. We have almost 8,000 men and women without really having a purpose in that country. It's costing us a lot of money. Let's bring that back to size to what it should be. What dictates that? We have to assess to see the need and we address this issue. Again, I will come to the area of the army in a democracy. The army play a major role in the other sectors. What it happens is destabilize the situation. Then the army becomes so powerful. When the army becomes so powerful, then democracy would be threatened or destabilized. As it is in Egypt, as it was in Sudan, as it is in Eritrea, as it is in Nigeria. That's why the democracy cannot be, it's not sustainable in this country. Again, we have learned from, this is not new. This is not new. We have learned from Ghana. Ghana tried it and completely failed. What my colleague said is right. What it does is foster corruption into the armed forces. It fosters corruption into the armed forces because the armed forces is not prepared. The armed forces doesn't have the capacity to deal with a project like this. Before we get to the armed forces and everything else, the project viability itself. The project viability, we should ask ourselves, who are the people behind this project? Have you remembered my Fati and the lab, scientific lab? It was a complete con. And this one, again, I am putting my neck out here. I am telling you this will not lift the ground. It's completely a con. There's no bona fide company, investment company that will take $125 million and come to a small country like the Gambia and choose the armed forces of the Gambia and say that they want to invest $125 million. No, this is something more into it. They are trying to get the government to guarantee loans. They are trying to get the government as a sovereign state to access loans that they, the government, will guarantee, and any default, the government will take the can. And for that company, what they do is they do the transaction cost. Government will pay them transaction cost. They will use that company to provide the implements and everything else. They don't care whether the project fail or not. What they want is they have the transaction, they benefit, they have dividend from that transaction, and the projects fail. This is not we should consume projects. Government should evaluate projects. The Minister of Agriculture is the home. The Minister of Finance is the home. The Minister of Lands is the home. These are the line ministries that should look into a comprehensive program on how to bring about feeding the Gambian people. It's not the Gambian Armed Forces.
And the other aspect as well is how would they determine who would be the farmers and who would be the infantry soldiers, who would be the navy, who would be etc. Because I wouldn't be recruited as a soldier only to be a farmer. I would rather go and farm. I think here if they need to look at and revive the Jahali Pachar project. We all know why the Jahali Pachar project failed. Once that one they've revived that and then avoid all those circumstances that made it fail, they can send a project into Jahali Pachar, and Sapo, wherein all these things the locals would be sponsored and then would be supervised until it is successful, because you have places like URD and CRR, which are very good for rice and cotton production. For example, in Basse, we had the cotton ginnery when I was young, going to primary school. It was very successful at the time. But because of some negligence and corruption, those projects failed. Look at Kuntauru, for example, the groundnut production sector in Kuntauru. The GPMB there is lying as a waste and a white elephant. Government needs to, like I said, definitely, the next government need to look into all these things and revive them instead of taking up new projects that would not even see the light of day. Because like Mr. Suarez stated, these people, when they come in, you tell them, look, we are not using our army because we got better ideals for the army. We're not using them for agricultural purpose.
Do you think there's more to this?
Of course, there is more to it than meet the eye. For me, both the army chiefs and some senior government officials are out to lubricate their pockets. That's why they are supporting this project. But if it is not for lubricating their pockets, they would not. They would disown it, and then redirect it somewhere else. Generally, these African politicians.
Do you think there's a catch somewhere?
Can you repeat that, please?
You think there's a catch somewhere?
Of course, there is a catch somewhere. Corruption is the main catch there.
Yeah.
Get rich quick is the main catch there. Like I said, why would you use the army in agricultural purposes when you can use them, for other purposes like civil engineering, engineering, wherein that would commensurate and complement their roles and responsibilities. For example, when you send them and train them into engineers, instead of government vehicles being sent to private mechanics and paying more money, government vehicles can be sent to the army garage, wherein they can fix this thing with little cost to government, wherein this army could be used to build government projects like buildings, roads, etc., instead of employing other people wherein government would pay excessive amounts, exorbitant amounts. They can use the army wherein the army can gain and the government can gain, and then we can develop the country. The army.
Tell us about the police, if you may.
Well, the same as the police, because the policing is not. When it comes to policing, there is general duty, and there are other duties like mechanical duties, civil engineering duties, etc., etc. Because if you look at the police, they also have what you call the maintenance unit. The police also have what you call the IT unit. This IT unit which involves communication, computering, etc. So if the
Technology.
police are trained, if the police are trained, let's say, those who are not on general duty, those who are on this maintenance unit, they are trained like the army. They would become like, if you are building, let's say, the police lines, instead of taking other people, the police of maintenance unit can build it, and that money paid to the police could go to the police welfare fund, which could be used, to help, serving and also retired officers. Because if you look at, in the Gambia, when if you look at in the Gambia, sorry, I've got a call. If you look at in the Gambia, when servicemen retire, they don't have any other meaningful project that they can engage to
Security.
continue living a decent life.
Mm-hmm.
So with these things, if they are in place, when they retire, at least they can have, something that they can fall back onto and then continue to have a decent life. These are things, it's like the government is not thinking. And then when you come in, like Mr. Suarez said, they know you've got the ideals, you want to work with them. They say, oh no, he's coming to take my place. So they would do everything possible to frustrate you not to come.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
this,
like they're not doing themselves any service at all.
Can I come in? Can I come in here when you ask
Yeah.
if there's a catch?
Yeah.
You see, I'll go back to what my colleague said, Tom Suleiman said.
yeah,
Barrow have to have the right people around him. You see, um, a president is a leader, but you need a leadership. You need a team that will help you in order to deliver. If the president had the right people around him, they would have advised him not to even entertain these problems. What he should have made sure is by this time the reforms have been done. Why? Now you have an army. Why the people interested here are the the force command, the senior command. Now for them, this is a lucrative industry for them. They are thinking of, if you look at the reforms properly, if army is reform, the armed forces is reformed properly, most of these people would not even be where they are because of the strength of the army would even be halved. And once you have that, the ranks would be affected. Regimentations would have to take place. Now, if they see a venture like this, they don't have the capacity. They are not financial guys. They are not agriculturists. What they would do is welcome it. For them, it's something that they would do. But this is not for them what they do or not. This is for what would benefit us, what would benefit the Gambia. That's where the government should take responsibility here. Agriculture is for the Minister of Agriculture to take care of. The armed forces of the Gambia have a primary role to play. And they're a part of the primary role, they play a secondary role for sustainability, to make them not just to sit to be idle. No, they have a secondary role, and that secondary role, engineering is very fitted to it. Medicine is very fitted to it, because all these things are they can be used in the social spa. Civil society spa. You can go and work in hospitals. They can run hospitals. They can do all this. But you cannot take them to run. They don't have the capacity to do these things. Who is going to train them? Who is going to train them? How long would it take to train them to be agriculturalists? Where are they going to get the expertise? When we talk about competence, or they don't have the knowledge. And people say capacity. People they are trained, they are fit. The capacity is the knowledge. Look at the opportunity we had. The Janet Commission sold how many tractors? Why those tractors?
yes, coming to
Yeah.
that.
Why? While those tractors were not taken in because of, as Brother Suleiman said, in every division in that country, the dictator had farms in there. Why didn't we take those communities and organize them and use the Minister of Agriculture and redistribute all these these things, and try to and bring productivity in what they do? We have women who very hardworking women. who haven't got the equipment, who haven't got the support to be done. We have lots of youths who are unemployed, who want to be employed, who want to be productive. We are not doing all this, to empower them, but we are trying to duplicate. We are trying to complicate the armed forces issue again. I think the armed forces should be reformed, and the Gambia government should look at how to deliver the Ministry of Agriculture. Right now, they cannot even buy groundnuts. The last trade season, they cannot even buy the groundnuts. Then where would they find the 125 million to give the army to go into agriculture, to rice? What about what he said? If the government looked at a comprehensive program, the Gambia agriculture, would have, grow, and that would have been the backbone of our economy. Should have been the backbone of our economy. Places like Kaur, Kuntaur, Basse, the river of the Gambia would have been utilized. This is what Gambia relied on before. Cotton and every other thing could be done, but Gambia have to do it. Gambia government have to do it, but we cannot take this and subcontract it to the armed forces. It's completely a folly.
What's your take, Suleiman? Mr. Jeng?
Yeah, I think that's quite right. Personally, I don't think I would recommend the government to go ahead with the project. I would rather ask them to revisit the Jahali Pachar project.
Yes.
And look at the circumstances that led to its failure, and then try to correct those ones and then revive it. And given it a couple of years, obviously the Gambia would be self-sufficient in rice production. Let's say, for example, when Jammeh left and Kanilai, his farms, the zoo, the structures there, I wrote something about it. I said the government should not neglect that place just because it was Jammeh's and then is in Kanilai. The government could take up those, projects and then run them and make profit out of it, and then, utilize it to develop the country. Let's say, for example, Kanilai, the structures could have been, used as science lab, as part of the, the University of the Gambia. The Sindola Hotel could still be used. The zoo with all the animals that are not even at the National Zoo could be used to attract more tourists. But they are seeing it maybe perhaps because if they do that, Kanilai would flourish more further, or they will be preserving the image of Jammeh, which is absolute nonsense. Political. You have to look at it at the national point of view and look at these things and say, I am not going to let it ruin. You understand? Because if you let it ruin, at the end of the day, a lot of our national, revenue has been used to build those structures and have been used to maintain those structures. So why can't we maintain these structures and continue to benefit from it than let it, fall into ruins?
Right. If I may come in there, do you think, before we switch, you think Senegal is in control of the Gambia, Ben? Senegal is control.
No. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Senegal is advancing their strategic.
Yeah, but the Gamtel is taking over.
I'll get to this. Every country have their national interests. Senegal is looking after their national interests. What Senegal does is to make their citizens, to create a conducive environment for their citizens to flourish. And these citizens, flourish, and strategically, they go into markets. Senegambia markets is for both of us. We should hold our government accountable. We should hold ourselves accountable.
They tap into our diamond, they're tapping into our diamond, innit?
Yes, but who is giving them access? They are not forcefully taking it. They come in as businessmen. Why is the Gambia government letting it happen? I said every government have a strategy, their national interests. But two governments, like Gambia and the Gambia government and the Senegalese government, should have a mutual interest. But if we have a government that is not looking after our national interests, another government would take advantage. I agree. Senegal is taking advantage of our poor governance. But this is something for us Gambians, for the Gambia government to deal with. But we should not blame Senegal for doing something for themselves and their citizens. We should blame ourselves for neglecting our country or neglecting our people.
This is
I
ridiculous.
quite agree.
Yeah,
But
because
you are talking about Senegal. What about China? You are talking about Senegal. What about Turkey? Every country is taking a piece of the Gambia. Gambia is losing its sovereignty. You see, the area of intelligence I studied is this is what we this is what we need in the Gambia. What we have now, the intelligence agents is not fit for purpose. Senegal and any developing country, or all they do is intelligence for the purpose of advancing that country. In a sense, everything you see, they create vehicles, they create mechanisms, they look into and report back areas that need to be improved, and they do these things. But like we don't have an intelligence here in the Gambia that reports to the presidents or inform the presidents that we are losing out here. The sovereignty is losing out here. Our interest is not being, and they are not there suggesting, not only report, and you suggest, so we can look at these things and use it in order to advance our strategic interests. We can look this and do this. The problem is poor governance. And as time goes on, Gambia would lose its sovereignty not only to Senegal, but Gambia would definitely lose its sovereignty to different actors. And some of these actors are criminal actors. They might be Senegalese, but they are not representing the interests of Senegal or the Senegalese sovereignty. These are private Senegalese citizens. We have Turkish who are private Turkish citizens doing things for themselves. We have Chinese who are. But in Turkey and China and Senegal, all of these things do happen because of their government give support. They create a conducive environment through their foreign policy for their citizens to go and invest in countries. They create markets for them. I mean, for them to have advantages in these markets. This is what the Gambia doesn't do.
The next topic that is in my head is going to be Turkey, China, and Senegal taking over the Gambia, which is not, which is going to be in our sequential thingy. But coming to that, we'll talk about that sometime later. I think Suleiman is a bit tired with something.
No, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Yeah, it must be Macron now. No. Actually, 1919 UK time.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Right. Yes, we got this next one to set light on here, Mr. Suare.
Yeah.
Your take on
I
this.
just want to talk on the. Can you hear me?
Wait a minute. Give my thumb. Yeah, go on, Tim.
Yeah, on the Senegalese part, you said whether Senegal is taking over the Gambia.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Can you hear me as well?
I can hear you.
Yeah, Suleiman is up to something, maybe, it might come back, sometime later.
No, he's here.
Yeah,
I can't see him.
I'm here.
I can see him.
Oh, okay, but you can hear me as well.
I can't see. Yeah, hello, Suleiman, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I
can hear you loud and clear.
No, I can hear him loud and clear. I can hear.
Yeah, let me just come in and then Tom, you can tell him when I finish.
Or something.
No, he's not on mute.
I can hear you, but I can't hear Suleiman for some reason.
I can hear him loud and clear, and he can hear him loud and clear.
It's a bit
his microphone is
not on your side
because it's not coming. You're coming on live, but he's not coming for some reason.
Can you check your side? I think.
Yeah, because I had a call earlier, and then I think
mine
that
is
was
perfect.
what interrupted
I'm perfectly good here.
I had a call earlier. I think that was what interrupted it. Do you want me to come out and come on again?
Hi, Suleiman. So Suleiman, see?
Yeah, I think Tom, Tom, go out and come in again.
If you can go out and come in again, and I will accept you once again. On that note, what we're on about here now is Senegal coming into the Gambia, tapping into that expensive market of yes, he can come in here.
I think we can let him have it. Let him have his say. I think that should be a different point.
Yes. What's your take on there? Yes.
I think Senegal is slowly developing into a very powerful sub-regional state.
Yeah.
Both in terms of political and economic influence. as well as military might.
And social.
If you look at their independence, if you see the military display of Senegal, you can easily tell that Senegal is a very, very fast growing, sub-regional power. Okay, in the Gambia, most of the time we look up to Senegal when we are in dire need of leadership change or restoration of peace. And I think, as a citizen, we should be ashamed now, and we must, like Mr. Suarez said, reform our security sector such that we do not need to look up to any other country for support to stabilize our internal peace and security. Okay, because Gambia owes Senegal that obligation, that is why Senegal is also encroaching into, our sovereignty by, taking a lot of our socio-economic, powers and means of developing to develop themselves through their citizens in the Gambia. Because let's say, for instance, Barrow, would always look up to Macky Sall as the one who has saved him and who has restored his presidency. So because of that, he would feel that, he owes Salah a favor.
Yeah.
When Salah asks him for anything, he wouldn't say no, because for him, excuse me, he would appear ungrateful. But here again, as a smart leader, he should look at, what interest has Gambia got into whatever, Senegal is asking them to participate or to give up. Let's say, for example, during the Confederation, when Jawara looked at it and saw definitely this wasn't to the advantage of the Gambia and the Gambian people and his leadership, he backed out. I think, Abdou Diouf kept that grudge against him. That was why in 1994, he turned a deaf ear.
Yeah.
You understand? So these are circumstances that is perhaps leading our leadership, to be that subservient to the Senegalese authority. But the only reason is because we are not independent. Independent in the sense that economically we are not independent, politically we are not independent, and even security-wise we are not independent. We always rely on outside forces to protect ourselves.
How about mentally? Mentally, are we independent mentally?
We not, because, for example, I'll give you a clear case. In the Gambia, anything that is Gambian, whether good or bad, very few Gambians would celebrate it. Exactly. But anything that is foreign, which has, anything that is foreign, Gambians would celebrate it and make it their own at the expense of, their own people. Let's say, for example, Youssou N'Dour, when he was, learning his music, Gambia was his market. And most of his things were done in the Gambia. But we had people like Gelowar, we have people like Fambondi, they all died down. You understand? The support was never there. But, when the Senegalese come in, if Youssou N'Dour is playing in Senegal, if he is asking for $500, if he comes to Gambia, he will ask for $2,000. And then the Gambians would go and pay. But the Senegalese wouldn't pay $2,000 to go and watch Youssou N'Dour. But we have our own people, like ST, we have people like Mbai Baji, we have people like, Fatmata Sandeng. She has a very good vocal. These are people that we can encourage. But it's like, instead what we do, we look down, on them, and then,
is that, how would
celebrate other people?
I think
say is all about self-hate.
No, that's inferiority complex, low self-esteem. It's all about low self-esteem. It's like, if you have a strong self-esteem, you would always value yourself, and then you would value what you have. But if your self-esteem is low, you always tend to look from the outside to compensate what is lacking in you, because you tend to build up yourself. For example, it's like, you look at, I don't want to use this name, because I don't want to be, let's say, for example, in the football, you are a very good footballer. Instead of projecting your name, you call yourself Messi. Messi has never called himself Pele. Why would you want to be called Messi? Because you got the skills, but you think Messi is the better person, and if you are called Messi, you can do better. When Messi had never called himself by any name. So this demonstrates that kind of low self-esteem in all of us. We
How?
always tend to look at someone else. There is nothing wrong in having a role model or a mentor, but you should not see yourself as that person. You should use that person as a barometer to excel, to better yourself, or to even achieve more than that person. But if you
If
call yourself that person, you are just limiting yourself within the shadows of
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
person.
If I may come in there, how you think, you personally, how do you think we can inculcate to support our own? How can we inculcate this in our people?
Well, this can come through civic education. Through civic education, you can make people appreciate themselves. Let's say, for example, is like what other, let's say, like in the wall of time, gorgorlu. Even a woman, if you are doing well, they tell you dangawara gorgorlu. Luta doing la dangawara jigen jigenlu. So that term gorgorlu is making the woman feel that the gor is better than the woman. So psychologically, they are teaching you that as a female, you are incompetent and you are insubordinate to the man. We need to kind of do away with such terms that kind of make people feel inferior, that kind of
Less word.
limits, the exploitations of people's potentials. Encourage people and, support them. Where you see someone is coming up, is doing something, you support the person, and then the person would appreciate his or her value. I was looking at one artist at thing, is it QTV? He was doing fantastic, uh, drawings, and then the other projects is like, if he were here, I know he would have made millions of pounds, and then people would use him, to kind of help other people to develop themselves, like the youths, those who want to become artists. But in the Gambia, I remember when I was young, personally, that's my experience. I was very good at sketching, very good at drawing. And those who know me would tell you I used to print t-shirt, and then at the time I was in high school, from 1 to 5, I used to make a lot of money. So my father used to discourage me from drawing because he believed if you draw like images of people, when
Yeah.
you die,
We have
you
to
will
put
be asked
life
to
in
give
it.
them life.
Put life in it. Yeah.
So you understand. So that kind of took me off that track.
Mentality.
You understand. So these are kind of things that would limit people to exploit themselves. So as Gambians, we must learn to value what is Gambian. If you go to Senegal, you'll see they are producing like juice or those things, and they are bottling them. Now you find them in the supermarkets and everything. So in the Gambia, we have people who are doing it. People like Yasin Sar, who are very good cooks. I don't know, Yasin Jallo. We need to celebrate these people. We need to, give them the opportunity so that at least they can develop. Once the government has given them the opportunity, at least, they would develop. Let's say when Yaya Jammeh was there, he would call people from Jamaica and give them, thousands of
Billion.
dollars. People from Nigeria and give them thousands of dollars. Look at our own artists, like this guy, the comedian. I don't know his Kitab.
Kitab, yes.
Kitab, the comedian, is doing so much during
Exactly.
Ramadan. He's doing on politics, but the government is not helping him. The local people, the local press is not helping him.
I think that
He should have been featured on the media, both press and audio and visual, so that people would start to appreciate them, and then
so
people would start to value them.
yes, right. Suleiman, thank you so much for that. Ben, if I may come to you, you don't think in our curriculum at school, you don't think we need to start this from there to inculcate this in our curriculum, like patriotism, loving your country, loving your own, nothing. You don't think that might help?
That will help, but that's not where we should start.
Where do we start then?
We should start from the leadership. You see, Gambia have a leadership problem. A country is not developed in a 5-year development plan. A country develop a strategic development plan. A country, do the projections in 50 generation, develop in generational. And when you have the right leadership, that's why I said the transitional periods what was a perfect opportunity to bring Gambians together again and use all the talent we have. This was the need to have that think tank. Use all the talent again to draw, to capture the vision of Gambia. What Gambia do we want to see in generations to come? Then in that vision, then we put in a strategic development plan that would map out signpost all this. How to get to that 100 to 200 years of development by starting here 50 years time to selection. Now, if this is done, then as my Tom said here, being security, being art, being culture, being everything about Gambia would have been incorporated and then strategically been task been given to people, agencies that would have promoted these things. And you see, some of these things happen without you realizing it's happening. You see the environment they give to the media in Senegal, the environment they give to cultural promotion, incentive they give to cultural promotion and stay Senegalese influence to go further. You see, because of when you invest in your sovereign, a sovereign country, it's not a country without its people. Because the people are the sovereign. The people made that country. If Gambia is not investing in its people, then the Gambia cannot influence anything in this art, on this art. Then it's important to have a strategic plan that Gambians would have the influence.
Would you, Suleiman, would you say Senegal, Gambia is one-way system? Would you say it's one way?
One way in
it's
what
only
sense?
Senegal, in the sense of only Senegal is benefiting. Because if you look at it,
we are dependent. We are interdependent. The only thing is we have a share market. We have a share market. You see, because now when you import something from Senegal, it's beneficial to Gambia because of the transaction cost is less. And will be better. If it's fresh food, why import fresh food from Turkey or China? If it is produced in Senegal better. But again, Gambia should not only import from Senegal. What can we do in order to export to Senegal? Should be a market.
I think the only benefit that Gambia is getting from this Senegambian relationship is the security aspect.
Yeah, but we should.
Apart from the security aspect, the Gambia is not benefiting anything from the relationship. I can give you a clear example because our Gambian businesses are complaining when they are going to Senegal with their goods and services. It's like the Senegalese custom officer will harass them like, they got drugs or something, prohibiting, commodities with them. But when the Senegalese are coming into Gambia with their, goods and services, they have easy access. Yes. They are not harassed. So even when you go to Senegal, Gambians who are running businesses there are not as comfortable as the Senegalese running businesses and projects in the Gambia. So this relationship benefits more of the Senegalese than the Gambians.
Yeah, but this is what Gambia is not doing for itself. Senegal is doing for themselves. We're not doing for ourselves.
I think what you said, the bottom line is the leadership. If the leadership was definitely...
Remember, during the First Republic, Gambia was the major exporter to Senegalese, the smugglings and everything else. Because of then, the Gambia had a strategic development plan where taxes are lower and efficiency and effectiveness of the ports and so on make it conducive. And Gambia was conducive for people to do business. But if the country is overtaxed, if the people in charge of things are not competent, these are things that would happen. Now we are losing out. That's why I said this this aspect of this segment should be a special program. I think it's so wide. It should be open so wide. I think it should be a special segment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The next program we're going to set on is going to be about Gambia taking over by China, Turkey, and Senegal.
Losing our sovereignty.
Yes, so losing our sovereignty. I want to set light on this time is what do you think of the sit-down strike at Gambia College sit-down strike? Your take on this, Suleiman?
Yeah, I think to be quite honest, I've not been there for a while, but I know I was a student at the Gambia College from 1990 to 1992.
Have you seen the pictures?
And yeah, I've seen some of the photos,
Okay.
and I know at the time, you know, um, things were a little bit better in terms of housing. Feeding was bare minimal, but according to what I've heard, it was way, way better in 1992 than it was now. Okay, what they need to, I think the government needs to look into this very seriously
Yeah.
because I think Mr. Suare, you alluded into this in terms of revisiting our curricula and then the educational system
Mm-hmm.
because it all starts at the college because it is the college that produces, the agriculturalists. It is the college
Mm-hmm.
that produces the nurses. It is the college
Mm-hmm.
that produces the health inspectors. It is the college that
Mm-hmm.
produces the
The
teachers.
entire human
So
resource.
if the lecturers are underpaid and undervalued, so they would not, serve. And most of the people, the competent people, would look somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, for example, Yaya Gassama was, a lecturer at the Gambia College, but he left. Now he's an MP.
Mm-hmm.
Is sitting in the parliament. So his students have lost, you know, a fountain there. So him and other people, who have been there, like Demba Sisi and others, Demba Jallo, they have to leave for other avenues because you cannot have your knowledge, you cannot have your expertise, and then you go and run as a charity. The government need to invest into this. Why are you paying a permanent secretary or a minister huge amount of money who is not doing much, whilst the lecturer who is standing in the class lecturing, imparting knowledge, inhaling chalk dust, and etc., is paid less? It doesn't make sense. To me, I think they are right. They have every right to sit down until their conditions are changed. Because if they do not and then accept any other negotiation, then they would be doomed. And then these are the things, like I said, that would trigger other problems. Because the next minute, they would want to send in the police or they would want to send in the army, and then the students would also join their teachers, and then it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a national problem, like the
Yeah.
the April 2000, uh, April 10, 2011.
How
So I
about
can see similar thing coming up.
yeah? How about the national the government? Ben, government.
Yeah.
What's their say on this?
You see, this is what I'm saying. Again, I'll go to my Tom's what he says about Barrow not having the right people around him. You
Yeah.
see, as a strategist, as a strategist, even if Barrow wanted to entrench himself, if Barrow wanted a second term, yeah, Barrow, what should Barrow concentrate on is not about the BYM or anything. Should be about these institutions performing. The most important thing, that's why if he had concentrated on delivering a successful transitional government, he can, if he chooses to, I'm not advising him to do that. If he chooses to neglect on the other agreements, now he want to pursue himself to be a politician, career politician, he should have prioritized this. Why do I say this? Is the human resource, as my colleague said, Tom said, the human resource capital is the most important resource that you can have. It's the social and the human resource. If you don't have a human resource, he have called doctors, teachers, everything else would come out from this college. If you cannot produce these people, how can you develop? How can you develop? How can you grow that economy if you cannot produce this quality? Now, if priority was given during this transitional government, if priority was given to fix, you see, he would not have taken any project before talking about building mosques, building all these things, would not have been his priority. His priority would have been to fix what is existing. You don't start building new when you cannot maintain what is existing. It's a disgrace to see the conditions of the students. Not even, I mean, and the lecturers, students and lecturers, because they are all using the same environment. Even in the prison systems, the conditions shouldn't be like this. People should live in a human and civilized environment. More or less, our technocrats, our future technocrats, more or less, our human resource. These are the people who will be the backbone of our economy. These are the people who can grow our economy. Before you talk about that agriculture, if you don't have the agriculture external workers, if you don't have the public health workers, and every aspect of that, the teachers, most of these people again are teachers. They are the people who will leave the college and end up in teaching. Now, if you cannot, a government, if you cannot prioritize and deliver this, what would you deliver on? How can you succeed? He have given an example even to talk about the permanent secretaries. Paying permanent secretary that much. You know, the biggest corruption in the country is not salaries. It's what you call fuel coupons and per day.
How?
This government, fuel coupons. Do you? I cannot remember the CDS how much is paid spent on fuel coupons a month, but the deputy CDS is spending $16,000 on fuel to fuel his car. He's been spent on $16,000, and I think the CDS is about $26,000. And I'll tell you, most directors are spending that much. Ministers are spending far more than that. You see, this is the corruption of this thing. And the padem. The few weeks ago, the finance minister was out of the country for 6 good weeks. And for 4 of those weeks, he was being paid per day. What he went for, is it what he's been paid for? Most of this time, they go to seminars, they go to all these things. It's nothing to do with resource mobilization, the trips there. But you neglect the students who should be the future, leaders of tomorrow, who should be the backbone of that economy. I give an example. In South Sudan, the same thing happened there. They gained independence. There's nothing like, that's why when we talk about tribe, we don't have a tribe problem. What we have is elites and poor people. Elites and poor people. They all try to get in position. To get into position, they might use their tribe, or if they're in position, they will use their tribe. Or what they're all doing is to organize themselves to create a position. In South Sudan, when they fought and liberated themselves and had independence, now the University of Juba is experiencing the same problem the Gambia is experiencing in the university. The tuition fee and every other thing is on the burden of the poor, cannot access education. Now, the education is only for the privileged few. The Gambia now, we fought the dictatorship, and this is what I don't like. We are giving credit to the dictatorship. When I had students saying that they were better off during the dictatorship than now, that is just hard melting. The students are saying that they used to have, bursaries. They used to have sponsors, from the government to attend this education. They used to have better living conditions, and they used to have their stipends paid and everything else. How much does it cost to maintain that? How come we cannot even improve on that? When we came in as a government, as a democratic government, we had the goodwill of the international community. We had the goodwill of the Gambians. If this government have taken priority to govern right, to give the people what is due to them, I think that we would have achieved this. But because of, again, they are concentrating on issues, they have people around them who doesn't know or who doesn't have the interests of the people, but interests of themselves. But it's a disgrace that we are citing today, saying that the students were better off during the dictatorship than they are now. That's why I said that President Barrow should think and look at himself and look at the people around him. What people remember is what they have now. Am I better off now than yesterday? Am I hopeful that I'll be better off tomorrow? This is what he should think of all the time. If Gambians are not better off today than yesterday, and if Gambians are not hopeful for tomorrow, then his legacy would not be there, and I don't see him having a second term.
Suleiman Jeng, what's your take on this? Are we on track with this?
No, I don't think definitely is a good sign, because like I said earlier, if you look at the college now, the caliber of teachers they are producing, I cannot call them qualified, because some of them when it comes to writing simple English or simple spoken English, you can find a lot of inadequacies in them. So that's why if you look at the exam results, apart from the private schools, the government schools are performing very badly because of the caliber of products that we are having from the Gambia College. If you look at the kind of lecturers there now and the lecturers that we had at the time, it's completely different, because then most of the lecturers like Cisse from Brikama Geography, people like Mr. Cole from Sierra Leone, you got
Yeah.
people like Sebastian Jai, and a lot of them, they had double degrees. Jenu Mane and others, they had double degrees. But now most of these lecturers are just either from the University of the Gambia or few from the UEP. So, and most of my batch who had graduated from the UEP who are lecturing have left, because some of them went to Bristol, some of them went to Canada, they've got their bachelors, they've got their masters, they came back, and then they got frustrated.
The problem I have here is, I think, I don't know how would I call this. Is it a misplaced of priority, or is or ignorance, or callousness? How would you call this? Because you can see a minister or a permanent secretary or whatever title they might get will be flying from UK to Japan, China, wherever, and then you see people that you think are going to be the future leaders. The future, we're not building the future.
I think it's callousness and corruption. It's all callousness, corruption, and selfishness.
Can we? You think we can rectify this?
Yeah, it can be rectified if you have a leader that is bold, that is assertive, that is action oriented. It's like if you look at the history of all these developed countries, like China, Taiwan, Singapore, Dubai, coming back to Rwanda. If you look at their leaders, we hail Paul Kagame. But if you look at Paul Kagame, he is that, ruthless leader who has good policies, but he would not encourage any distraction. People like Chairman Mao and all the others, that's what they did. You talk about patriotism, education alone cannot inculcate patriotism. You need that firm leadership that can enforce it on the people. Let's say, for example, during the transition, Sana Sabali, with all his nastiness, when it comes to punctuality, he was trying to inculcate that. Directors and, permanent secretaries would be running in the morning to be in office by 8 o'clock, because no one knew which office Sana would come that morning. Because if you come late, he'll send you home. So the moment Sana was sent to prison, that went with him. But if Sana was there up to now, perhaps, we would not have that problem of, punctuality and good working ethics. But now in the Gambia, when you go to office, you'll find maybe the secretary on the phone chit-chatting to a family or a friend. They would come to work at 8 o'clock, and 9 o'clock they tell you, I'm going to a christening or I'm going to a burial. You don't do that here. You understand? There is work ethics, and you've got rules and regulations that govern your work. Some people would not go to work for a week or so, and then at the end of the month they are paid, because nobody knows whether they've been to work or not. So, but when there is a system that would regulate, the time you spend at work to commensurate your pay at the end of the month, that would also help to change the attitude, towards work, and then it will also change, people's perspective towards the nation. Because, for example, when you have, let's look at most of these, street taps in the Gambia, they all fail because everybody see them as public owned, as government owned. So nobody look after them personally. So they wasted, they are destroyed, nobody took care of them. So, but if people, you have that leadership that would, stamp these things into people and force them, obviously with a matter of time, like 5 years, it cannot be 1 year or so, but with a space of time, this thing would change. Doi has been doing, their educational bit from 1986 up to now. But it's like, you said the elites, who are the people that I look up to, when you entrust them with responsibilities, they become the most dangerous people and the most corrupt. They exploit the poor. So you need people, leadership like Paul Kagame. You need leadership like Chairman Mao that will send people to prison for not doing their work. That would, send people home for not doing their work, and then getting people that will do the work and deliver. And then you have to go and check constantly on these people. You give them targets, they reach these targets. If they cannot reach this target, you send them home. There you are not a dictator that, unlawfully arrest and detain people, but you are a dictator that is implementing good law and order
Sound policy.
development and, targets achievements.
Then
I think that is what the Gambia definitely need now. It needs that kind of leadership that would not look into your face and say, "Oh, Mr. Suare, we are colleagues. We talk on Facebook. We have programs together. So I'll appoint you and my minister. When you do something wrong, I turn my cheek on the other side." No, if you do it wrong, I just do. Make sure you feel the pinch. Next time you say, "Oh my God, I need to work."
Tom, I quite agree. I quite agree here. Change is always possible. Change is always possible. And as we said, change have to have leadership. You have to have the leadership in order to bring about the change. Let's give an example. Since the government come in, they appoint people as ministers. They appoint people as head of departments or these things. But they have not report back to the government to tell them what they find in their ministries. They have not looked at what the Minister of Higher Education, Minister of Education, Minister of Agriculture, they have not looked at it and say that this is what I found, and I think this is what I promise to deliver. This is our challenges. This is where we asking for support. Now, if they fail on to do that, then someone will be held responsible. Anything we do, there should be accountability in it. I mean, things have to be measured in order to be. We can measure improvements in order to know whether we achieve it or not. I'll give a typical example here. Throughout all the things we're talking about, this attributing to great leaders of other nations. I'll give an example here. We have it in the Gambia. It's not easy. Look at all the parastatals in the Gambia. Look at all the ministers in the Gambia. They are all the same, except one. Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. Why? Because of when this was the problem. When Mohamed Manjang came to change the attitudes, when Mohamed Manjang came to restructure and reform the institution, it wasn't easy. They resisted. When you bring about change, they will resist.
Yeah, you send them home. You send them home. If there's a need to lock them up, you lock them up.
That is the point I want to put across, which is like any bad or good, it should have a consequence, because the Gambian, I think the consequence has been repercussion. I think that is the strategy or approach we need to use to be able to activate.
Let me drive this out. Now, Mohamed Manjang took over and had all this problem with people, and he stood his ground. And luckily, governments, stood behind him. But look at the achievement of Social Security so far. When Social Security was losing millions, now Social Security is making profits, millions and millions, to the extent of paying dividend to pensioners for 13 months drawback. 13 months. From 2011, and from 2011, there's no pension increment. But 21% pension increment was recommended. That's what Social Security did. From good leadership, from the managing director, the board, and the people, and the officers of this thing. But it came out of leadership. Social Security paid 13 months of these things and savings. How did it happen? Because of the leadership. This is the sort of leadership we ask for. Look at Gamtel now. Why is other companies taking over Gamtel? Because of the leadership is not there. Look at GRA. It's over bloated. The taxes are not efficiently collected, and if collected, most of it is corruption. Look at most of these agencies is the leadership. Look at the ministries is the leadership. If we don't have the bold leadership,
that is why I said we need an executive leader that is firm, that is bold, that is assertive and action oriented. Sometimes to be nice, you have to be nasty. And being nasty to be nice to bring about development doesn't make you a bad person, because eventually when development is there, people will always look back and praise you for having done that. But if you see the Barrow leadership is not succeeding because he is more of a maslaha leader in a way. I'm not saying he should lock people illegally, but it's like you either have to work or you are home. There shouldn't be anything like nepotism. There shouldn't be anything like awarding people positions for political
Jobs.
reasons or anything. Everybody should be appointed according to your ability. Let's say Barrow, since he became a president, how many departments has he visited surprisingly to see how they are operating? Has he gone out on his own, maybe during the day, just bought a private taxi, and just visit one department? Has he gone out anywhere to check in the provinces without meet the people's store to go and see work for himself unannounced? How many of the ministers, the only time you see the ministers would go around on a familiarization tour is when they are appointed newly, or when something is happening. But there is a need that every now and again you travel unannounced, because that is the only time you can know what is exactly happening on the ground.
I think
Yeah.
they need to reshuffle them and decentralize all these parastatal bodies.
So even if they reshuffle them, the leadership needs to be stronger to push them. Even if you don't need to reshuffle them. Now with that strategy and implementation project that they have launched, which my party is heading, I am personally very confident that Mai would achieve something. You can call Mai whatever he is, but Mai is action oriented. Mai is focused. And I am sure he would begin to send a lot of people home, and then they will start to say he's witch hunting people, when actually he's not witch hunting people. If it is witch hunting, I would witch hunt, but I'll make sure I will witch hunt the weak ones and bring in the better ones. Because we have to someone has to be nasty somewhere so that we can get developed.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I would just buttress this point. I think Barrow should learn a lesson here with the IOC. He visited the IOC site and he was given this impression. And I have seen video twice. The IOC leadership, OIC leadership came to State House, and I had them on video and giving all these promises, and it failed. And the problem I have with this policy unit is two things. I think putting it under the president's office is wrong, one. Giving a political appointee as the head is wrong. My party doesn't have integrity, and he would, because of his lack of integrity, and he is of a political leader, he will look after his interests, but not the interests of the people. His track record have given us that all he looked after is my party's number one, and my party the interest. That is what we felt. Again, I will say it. Something of that importance. I think we should have scouted for very competent, independent Gambians who have integrity, who would not want to trade that integrity for nothing. No political.
Here when we talk about integrity, if you look at Paul Kagame, like I gave you those examples, and Chairman Mao, we know those people have human rights issues.
Yes,
they're not the Democrats that are celebrated, in the West. But now every Rwandan is celebrating him, and every Rwandan is proud to be called a Rwandese, because he has put his foot down to ensure Rwanda is developed. So we are not looking at integrity here.
No, we look at integrity. We look at integrity.
Let me just finish.
With my fact,
the integrity that we look at are the integrity that is taking us to the grave. Because all the people that we have in the leadership, we say let's say like the Secretary General, when he came in first, everybody celebrated him. Everybody celebrated the Secretary General. But look at the civil service structure.
No,
since he came, what has he done to change it?
I mean, I've not celebrated him. because
what I'm saying here
what
is
I'm
we
saying
need
is,
an
but
action-oriented
that doesn't have to
person,
do with this integrity.
a
That
person who
doesn't
is
have to do with this.
committed to drive development pause.
That might have to do with his competency. With my party here is integrity. The guy doesn't have a track record of doing anything right. The guy have a track record of looking after himself.
Yeah, but
The guy
why
has
is
been
it that when he left the Ministry of Interior, everybody is said, even his skeptics, we are calling for him to come back.
That's them. You will always have people who think. That's not me. That's not me.
Honestly, Ben,
That's not me.
for me,
The guy
I'm not
doesn't
like
have
Mr. 90 Days.
No.
If I should be the president of the Gambia for first 5 years, I'm sure they will call me all kind of names. But when you come back, you would see the difference in the Gambia without anybody telling you. Because you either have to do the work or you go out. Like Jamie would say, before I come for you, you have to do the work or you leave it. And that is what Gambia need, to take it forward. Because we don't need leaders that would kind of, negotiate with people who distract you. People who kind of would sabotage everything. Why would you negotiate with those people? You have to look at the interest of the majority. One person cannot stop the development of 10 people. I'm not going to say because one person's human rights, I have to respect that. When 10 people would die just because of respecting that one person's human rights, I wouldn't do that. I would rather sacrifice that person's human rights and so those 10 people survive and then that development is there. So I'm not saying I would kind of come and, just find someone in the street I don't like and lock him up.
Them.
Or, come and see somebody else, a minister, progressing, then, get jealous and terminate his services. No. Everybody would have targets at your departmental targets that you need to achieve. If you cannot achieve those within that time framework, you go out and somebody else comes. And then for the corruption, if you want to stamp that out, you have to be real nasty. Because if you are good and nice and negotiate, it's not going to work.
Yeah, no.
Guys, it's after 8 o'clock.
We're running out of time here. In fact, we almost exhausted all the an hour 45, 50 minutes now. But before we go, what's your final note, what advice, or what's your final take, Mr. Suleiman Jeng? And then we'll come to you, Ben, and then we shut down.
Well, my advice is let Barrow kind of, set off all these unnecessary, advisors around him and just look for few competent people who are experts in their own experiences. Like, someone who has military expertise or policing expertise, who is credible, firm and fair and honest to be his, security advisor. Get someone who is, a doctor or someone who has experiences and has worked well, like the Minister of Health, that would advise him on health matters. And then he has to be action-oriented. He has to be firm. He has to be bold. He doesn't have to look at people's faces, to negotiate for things. He has to be doing things and so things are done. Anybody that is not doing the right thing should be sent home. And anybody that is out to, distract or do anything should face the full force of the law. So that is my advice to him. And that way, within the next 2-3 years, at least he can achieve something that he can be remembered for having done a good thing.
Thank you so much, Suleiman. Ben, final thought?
Yeah. On the same note, my advice to him would be whether he have a political ambitions or not. One thing that would guarantee him and guarantee Gambians stability is to govern effectively. And govern effectively means to put people, even political appointees. You can have your favorite person, but make sure that person is able to deliver what you appoint him for. Yes, the Constitution gives you the right to appoint every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but again, that same Constitution gives you responsibility to make sure you deliver. What you're there for. Then I think that should be understood, and let him be very careful. If his over ambitions on politics and listening to only people that will tell him what he wants to hear, I think that is a recipe for failure. I think he should be a good listener. And as my Suleiman said, I don't see all the need of all the so-called advisors, deputy advisors from every time. I mean, these things trying to create jobs and everything is just creating more confusion, and it's going to create more division within his ranks. And where the people are divided, they will not deliver. But why am I real in concern? Because of the failure of Barrow is the failure of all Gambians.
Yeah.
And the failure of Barrow is likely to destabilize the country. That's why I say that he should govern effectively. A government has to be effective. A government has to be effective when it comes to maintaining the peace and stability of that country. I understand where my colleague come from to say that the human rights of people have to be protected, but again, to what cost? What we mean here is, if you talk about your human rights, other people have rights as well. You cannot exercise the human rights that trample on other people's rights or freedoms. A country has to be governed according to laws and according to the constitution, and that's what we ask for. Sure. But as a leadership influence. Leadership should influence change in a way that people would take it on easily. That's what a leadership will do. Thank you very much for inviting us, and thank you, Tom. And it was a great time on the great 2 hours spent.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. See you next time.
Also, thank you so much for your time, effort, and energy here. We'll set another day aside to come back here and talk about factors relating to this very important current affairs, state of affairs in the Gambia. On that note, thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Right,
thank you, guys.
Thanks. This is where we draw the curtain for tonight. Thank you to our listeners and viewers right now here from Sky Power FM Radio. So long. It has been Mustafa Jame at the seat saying thank you so much for being there, and then have a pleasant night. Cheers. Thanks. Bye for now. Thank you.